Chapter 1101. Wealthy life was actually like that. Gu Jingze pinched her nose. That is already pretty good. You can go and ask my employee how difficult it is for me to say okay. Lin Che shrugged. I am not going to ask. Gu Jingze looked down and smiled. Alright, it's already not bad. It's already quite good for your first time. I can't spot any mistakes. Furthermore, it is also very unique. There are only a few details that are not done well enough, but that's only to critical people like me. Alright, she knew that he was critical towards his subordinates. Upon hearing him criticize like that, she felt very sorry for his subordinates. He was too difficult to please, okay. While others said it was great, he could still pick out mistakes. However, Lin Che did this with him in mind. She still hoped to get his approval, especially his approval, so she worked so hard on it. She did this with the standards he would like, so everything was naturally well prepared. To others, it was perfect. However, Gu Jingze still had different standards. Gu Jingze said, okay, you've been working hard these days. I am heading out for 2 days, so I'll bring you along. Ah, where are we going? Lin Che asked. Gu Jingze said, a business trip to S City. Ah, can I really go too? Of course, let's go back and pack up. Okay, Lin Che felt like she already forgot the life outside after busy working at home for so long. She thought it was great that she could go out and have fun, regardless of where she was going. After heading out, however, she saw a fleet of people walking past her outside. Upon seeing that, Lin Che remembered that Wesley was still living here. But she did not know how Shui Yong was doing inside. Shui Yong recuperated in Wesley's villa for a while. When he just moved in, everything here made him uncomfortable. Everything looked great here. Indeed, Wesley knew how to enjoy life. There were places to rest everywhere. When he was bored, he would play golf at the back or tan under the sun at the pool and call some beauties over for a small party. Shui Yong had never thought about how these wealthy people usually live. Although he knew Lin Che for a long time, he had never been close to her life. He only heard about it but never went in to see. Now that he saw Wesley's comfortable life, he thought, we're all wealthy people like that. If so, it was really different from his imagination. This really made him somewhat uncomfortable in his heart, as these things were beyond his imagination. Wesley really took very good care of him. He let him rest his leg in a huge room in the villa and even sent 3 Filipino maids to take care of him. Every day, he ate good food and drank good drinks. But, whenever he came to visit him, he would raise his arms and coolly ask, do you not wish for this kind of lifestyle? After having such an experience, do you think you cannot go back to becoming a normal person? Shui Yong looked at him and laughed. Thank you, Mr. Wesley, for taking care of me with such care. I think it's great, but even if I don't, I believe I would still make a full recovery. He meant that these were not necessities. However, he knew internally. He had never experienced these before. He lived a difficult life since he was young. Before he was 18, his life was literally hell. Only after meeting Lin Che did his life change. Even then, his life was drastically different from those of the wealthy. He was a smelly bug in the corner in the past. Regardless of what happened, he had to lick his own wounds. So he was right that he could survive no matter what. But now, he understood that surviving and living was still different. He was still different from Robey. After he woke up early and the Filipino maid helped him tidy up, he limped his way out. However, he saw Robey teasing a fish outside. He smiled and walked over, watching over her. Robey looked up and saw Shui Yong. Why are you here? She yelped, checking his leg. Don't worry, I can walk now, I just cannot put too much weight on it, he said. Robey smiled at him. You used to be so active. It must be difficult for you to suddenly be unable to move. Shui Yong was the type of person who loved sports, so he would play every type of sport. Now that he could not move at all, he must be panicking. He replied, yes, I already said that I hate being bored. I really hope to return to the film site soon. Just then, he saw Wesley walk in. There were 2 hot girls next to him. Shui Yong looked over. Wesley did not avoid his daughter even though there were two hot girls next to him. He greeted, "Hey, Bai." Bai smiled. "Dad, good morning." Shui Yong looked at that side. "Is he always like that?" Bai smiled and said, "Yes, my mother is my father's third woman, so I'm long used to it." Shui Yong said, "All right, maybe this is wealthy people are like." Bai replied, "Yes, he has many women. When he hosts a party, he will find different women, and he really likes hosting parties. There seems to be a swimsuit party tonight. He also likes going out to sea, and every time, he brings along 7 or 8 women, so I always say that he became more vigorous with age." Shui Yong asked, "What about his job? What about earning money?" "He is different from Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze is a man of action who likes to do things himself. He is a man of enjoyment, and our family is not as complicated. If he is the heir, he is the heir. Everything belongs to him, but he can just ask a professional manager to do all the work, so his life is very lazy normally." Sure enough, it was different from the wealthy people from his imagination. How extravagant. If it was not partying, he would go out to sea. Even though the women knew what kind of person he was, they would still stick to him. Bai said, "Never mind. Let's not care about him. I don't feel good looking at them, so let's go out and play." Wesley allowed her to go out, but a lot of people must follow them. The two people walked around. Bai was still supporting him. After seeing the supermarket, the two of them decided to buy some instant noodles to eat at night. They used to do it at the filming site, but now that he had not eaten it for a few days, he strangely missed it. However, just as they entered, someone recognized Shui Yong. "Ah, isn't that Shui Yong? Ah, so handsome. But why is he with a woman? And they seem so close. Please, that's his manager. His manager is so young and pretty. Ah, anyway, he is so handsome. Let's quickly go and ask for a signature." Their screams made everyone know and immediately looked at them. Shui Yong, give us your signature." "Shui Yong, I heard you were injured. We were all so worried." Everyone screamed and looked over. Shui Yong had no choice. He smiled at everyone and pulled Bai away. Some people have already forgotten about the news in the past and did not know that Bai was actually from the Wesley family. They thought the bodyguards following them were Shui Yang's bodyguards, but they were actually all sent by Wesley. Chapter 1102. Is this the kind of life you can give her? But the fans were relentless. They chased them and yelled, Shui Yong, tell us about your injury. Shui Yong, we are all so worried about you." The few people closed up the gap but were blocked by the bodyguards. The bodyguards forcefully pushed some people away to block them from nearing them. Probably because they were not bodyguards from the entertainment industry, they did not leave any mercy for these fans and pushed the crowding fans immediately. The fans were immediately pushed to the ground. Shui Yong could not let this go on. He walked over and asked the bodyguards, "What are you doing? Can't you be gentler?" The fans on the ground began yelling pitifully. "What are you doing? How can you hit people?" Shui Yong looked at the fans. "I'm sorry, they don't know." However, these bodyguards did not care about the so-called celebrity image. They did not care how these people thought, so their expressions were still proud while they looked at these crazy fans and protected Bai. There were a lot of fans behind them. Taking advantage of their numbers, they angrily looked at these bodyguards. "You better apologize to us now." The few bodyguards still stood there unmoving as if they did not understand them. The fans immediately started causing a scene. They screamed at the bodyguards, "Right, apologize. We came over because we like Shui Yong. How could you do this? And this is the manager. Is this how you be a manager? How can you be like that? Right, quickly apologize to us." Bai was also very anxious at the side. She told the bodyguards, "Can you not be so rough?" The bodyguards did not care, but they saw some fans start crowding around Bai to demand an apology. Upon seeing that, Shui Yong immediately shielded Bai and told his fans, "Please be rational. This is a problem with the bodyguards and has nothing to do with Bai. How could it be not related? She is the manager and she hired the bodyguard. The fans immediately started crowding them, so the bodyguards naturally acted and rushed over to pull some fans apart. The scene was in a mess. Bai was anxious. She could not affect Shui Yang's image because her bodyguards did not listen to her. She immediately stood up and said, "All right, we will apologize, please don't make a scene. We will deal with the bodyguards properly when we go back." Just then, a rash fan took something from the supermarket and hit it at Bai. Bai's head was hit and blood immediately started flowing. Shui Yang froze and rushed over, holding Bai. Bai, let me take a look." Bai's head hurt and she covered her head with her eyes closed. It's okay, I'm fine." However, Shui Yang already carried Bai and walked out. The bodyguards saw and chased after them. The supermarket was in chaos. The staff saw the scene and took many videos, complaining about how celebrities were troublesome when they came out. Why did these celebrities come to crowded places? This made so many people chase after them. At the villa, Wesley was immediately notified of Bai's incident. The bodyguards were there, so this incident could not be hidden. Wesley immediately rushed in to look at Bai. Bai's head had an obvious scar. He angrily yelled, "Call the doctor over now. The best doctor in C Nation." However, he still could not trust them. He walked over, pulled Bai, and said, "I'll bring you back to America. They have the best doctors." Bai shook her head and looked at Wesley. "Dad, it is just a small wound." Wesley yelled, "How could that be a small wound? It is on your face. Do you know how important a face is to a girl?" Shui Yang's heart skipped a beat at the side. His face was pale, drained of blood. He knew this was his fault. Bai suffered because of him and the fans he attracted. Shui Yang said, "Sorry." Wesley angrily looked back. Is saying sorry useful? "Dad." Bai pulled Wesley. Wesley looked at Shui Yang and turned back. "Leave first." Shui Yang gritted his teeth and looked at Bai. In the end, he still turned and walked out. Wesley naturally got the best doctor here. The whole villa was busy because of this incident for the whole afternoon, but Shui Yang could only watch from outside. Just then, Wesley walked over and looked at Shui Yang. "You have seen what kind of life you can give Bai." Shui Yang turned back. Wesley said, "Bai is my treasure here. She is so precious that I would not allow her to get hurt, even just a little. But in your life, she has to suffer from such injuries, get yelled at, and be your accessory. She was looked down upon, and now she was even beaten up. Do you think this is the kind of life you want to give her?" Shui Yang hung his head and mumbled, "This was just an accident." Wesley snorted, "Accident? As long as you are still a celebrity, such accidents will not stop. Unless you are willing to give up your career and follow me back to America and accompany Bai, you will live a worry-free life. Give up everything he had now and follow them to America. Then, what would he be in the future?" Wesley continued, "Unless it is like that, I will not agree to let Bai continue to suffer here with you. I will bring her back to treat her. The doctors here cannot give her the best treatment. I want no scar left on her face." Upon finishing, Wesley ignored him and walked away resolutely. Shui Yang stood there. He could never rely on someone else for his whole life. Now that Bai was injured and was going to return to America for treatment, he had no stance to stop her. That day, someone added to the mess and posted Shui Yang's video on the web. The video was edited and said that Shui Yang's bodyguards hit fans, making the scene a mess. However, the clip that showed the fan that hit Bai was not uploaded. At the moment, there were a lot of people bashing online. They said things like, "How Shui Yang's bodyguards did this? How could Shui Yang let his bodyguards hit his fans?" Shui Yang did not have any scandals in the past. Now that he became popular, there were always scandals coming out. This made people wonder whether he was actually problematic. At the company, Lin Che quickly came to the meeting room. Everyone looked at Lin Che. "What should we do?" Lin Che asked. "Where is Shui Yang? We are panicking because we can't find him at all." "Can't find him?" Lin Che asked in shock. Everyone said, "We couldn't find him after looking for the whole day. We couldn't contact him too. We went to Bai's house and they said he already left." Lin Che stood there. Was he escaping? But even if he escaped, they could not escape. Lin Che said, gather information. We will deal with it first. We cannot let anyone who wants to hurt us escape easily, no matter who it is. Chapter 1103, What went wrong? Lin Che said, quickly check. Where did this come from? The assistant told Lin Che, Sister Che, while you were resting, you may not have known about the recent news in the industry. Recently, Xingwei Entertainment pushed out a newbie that always competed head-on with ours. If we go on a reality show, they'll also go on a reality show. We accepted a novel-edited film and then they took the drama version. It seemed like they are picking a fight with us. Lin Che thought. She had never heard of this Xingwei Entertainment before. When did this company come out? Another assistant said, I heard they were split out from some conglomerate. They did not come out for so long. It was just 3 or 4 months, but they already pushed out many newbies. The people in the industry also thought that they were amazing, but I heard that they burned a lot of cash in the dark, so it was easy to promote their artists. Yes, we heard the bosses are all rich, and the newbies they pushed out were of good quality. It showed that they had good foresight, so they were very popular after the promotion. Recently, they were ganging up against our own newbies, which made us very frustrated. So we were thinking, if you must ask about a conflict recently, we can only think of them. But we don't know if they did it this time. Lin Che said, we can try investigating. As long as there is a direction, we should just do what we can. Yes, Sister Che. Lin Che pondered and said, before knowing all the other parties' cards, don't send any announcements. If they sent something wrong while not knowing what cards that their opponents had, they might have to eat their words. Lin Che said, just get someone to release the news that Abai was injured and left the country for treatment. Don't release any news about Shui Yang at all. Understood. Lin Che still needed to head out, so she gave some instructions then walked out of the conference room. After arriving outside, she saw Cheng Yuan too. Lin Che looked at him. His wound recovered a lot, and there was basically no deep scars on his face to be seen, but there were still light scars. He only recuperated for a month, so he might not be fully recovered yet. She walked over and asked, is your injury all right? Cheng Yuan too gratefully replied, yes, I am fine now. After trying a camera test, it was of great results. He was very photogenic and showed charisma on camera. He had the aura of a traditional beauty, which was very popular now. Hence the company immediately signed him on to become a trainee. Now he was still training in the company. His demeanor was good. Lin Che remembered and asked in a concerned voice, is your living space okay? What are you practicing now? Cheng Yuan too replied, I am temporarily doing the basics. I am training my figure, workout, and some parts of my performance. I don't know anything and have no talents. My biggest talent is that I can play the harmonica, but the company thinks that I should head towards an acting career, so they opened a performance class for me. Please don't worry about my life. I have found a part-time job outside, which is enough to make a living. Lin Che then smiled happily. That's good. Cheng Yuan too thought it was already good enough. Compared to the past when he had to be looked down upon, listen to whatever other people said, and still had to be worried if he would be brought away and bullied by others, his self-reliant life now showed a bright future and that was more than enough. Lin Che did not say anything else. She let him rest well and continued to be busy with work. It has now been a month since the birth of Yu Minmin's child. Upon hearing about the incident, she hurriedly called. Lin Che already instructed people to find Shui Yang. She knew he only disappeared because something happened at Wesley's home. Yu Minmin agreed with Lin Che on the phone. There must be someone purposefully cropping the video, so the most important thing now was to find who was behind it so that it could be dealt with properly. Lin Che's people immediately found it. Sure enough, it was that company's fault. They discovered someone from the internet posted this video online, so they immediately contacted the person who posted the video. After editing the video, they released it with their own accounts, publicized it, and made it a hot issue. Lin Che coldly snorted. Were they bullying them because they saw that there were all weak girls? Upon knowing that, Yu Minmin immediately got people to put in the effort to find the original source of the video discreetly. The person who filmed the video was an employee of the supermarket. Her IP address was discoverable on the internet, so they immediately found the person. On the same day, Yu Minmin went to ask for the full video personally. Because Yu Minmin headed down to ask for it personally, the person was also shocked and immediately handed it over in fright. The person also said that they did not know the clip would be edited and thought that the whole thing would be posted. After getting the video, Yu Minmin also asked for the contact of the people who asked for the video. The employee was scared, so she even sent Yu Minmin the chat records. She did not dare to hide anything, seeing that even Madam President came to handle it herself. She was afraid that she would not be let off easily this time. She probably did not dare to post random things on the web in the future. After getting the video, Yu Minmin immediately ordered people to release an announcement online, saying that their artist was hurt that when he met fans outside and was hurtled by them, although the bodyguards were foreigners, not from the company, and were even warned by Shui Yong to be not so rough with the fans, he was bashed to this degree because of an edited video. They were also going to sue those people who were spreading rumors, cropping the video and purposefully ruining the image of Shui Yong. The big accounts on Weibo immediately started to provoke the crowd on the internet. They questioned the claim of editing the video, and the disappearance of the company after the artiste scandal. Regardless of how the video was manipulated, they still owed the fan who was pushed onto the ground an apology, which was not delivered. Although they like your artist so much, they were insulted like that. Was a fan's love so worthless? After, everyone was more emotional and demanded an apology. Some fans who liked Shui Yong said that they would still support him. They thought that even if it was true, it was the company's fault and had no relations to Shui Yong. However, they were called out to be brainless fans. Whoever tried to defend Shui Yong would be called a brainless fan. The company was also immediately suspected. How could the bodyguards treat the fans in such a way? They even said the managing team of Shui Yong did not put effort into Shui Yong, and hoped that Shui Yong could change his company. These fans sometimes did not understand. The team would take all the blame onto themselves in order to maintain the image of the artists. No matter how the artist's image was like, the team, the artist, and external factors were all responsible for it. No single team could confirm the overall image of a celebrity. Chapter 1104. They headhunted him openly. Glorious Star Entertainment took the chance to aggravate the situation. They said that Lin Che's company was very small and strict with their artists. With the many scandals, they finally showed their true colors. They wanted to headhunt Shui Yong in order to compete with Lin Che's company. After hearing about that, Lin Che snorted coldly, wanting to see what other tricks the other side had up their sleeves. But as the opposition prepared to find Shui Yong, they could not do so. Hence, the other company said that Lin Che's company was hiding Shui Yong and forbidding him to have external contact to let Shui Yong stay in the company and not sign with other companies, hence obstructing his future. Now, the fans made a fuss again. They said that Lin Che's company was a bad company that exploited their employees and would do anything for money, other than helping their artists maintain a good image. Glorious Star Entertainment planned meticulously, thinking that it was obvious that they were trying to reach out to him. If Shui Yong was agreeable, he could be signed directly. However, they still could not find Shui Yong. Actually, Lin Che had already locked down on Shui Yang's location. Shui Yong left Wesley's villa and secretly went back to his little empty house in the small alley alone. It was lonely, but he stayed there. The interior was dirty and uneven. He stayed there alone, with trash all over the place. When Lin Che walked in, she could smell something bad from inside. She looked inside and saw Shui Yong sitting there, hugging his knees, and smoking. His stubble had already grown out. It pained her to see him in this pitiful state. Lin Che immediately walked inside. Shui Yong. Shui Yong looked up. After seeing Lin Che, his being suddenly perked up from numbness. Sister Che. His voice was extremely rough from smoking too much. He was still shaking the cigarette in his hands. He suddenly remembered something and immediately extinguished the cigarette. Lin Che was still pregnant, so he couldn't smoke. Even at this time, he was still thinking about other people. Lin Che felt more sympathy for him. She thought, he was such a good boy, but he was in such a bad state now. She walked over. Shui Yong, all right, stand up. What exactly happened to you? Shui Yong froze and looked at the angry Lin Che. Sister Che. Lin Che went up and tugged Shui Yong over. Look at the state you are in now. Shui Yong looked down and closed his eyes. His drooping eyes seemed full of sadness. Lin Che pulled him up and reprimanded, Shui Yong, Abai has been taken away, so you are very sad now. You have seen the distance between you and her, so you are very sad now. You feel like you cannot protect her, so you still feel very sad now. However, what's the point of being useless like that? Shui Yong stood there, unmoving. Lin Che immediately sat down at a side and continued scolding him. Do you think the world will stop because of this? Because you are sad, will the world outside stop spinning? No, I also left before, and I also had my own distances with other people. I also faced hopelessness, but being hopeless is useless. People can only continue walking forward. She said loudly, we can only make ourselves better, more mature, and stronger. Then, it will get better. You look at how you are now. What's the point? Abai will only be glad that she listened to her father and left you. Wesley will only be very happy that he was right, that you are just a useless person that cannot be saved, but the outside is a mess now, and we are fighting with our lives on the line for you. But you are here alone, forgetting about the world. Do you think there is any meaning in this? Lin Che turned around and looked at him. All right, I have said everything I should say. This is your life and you should be the one making the decisions. If you want to continue rotting here, then stay. All our hard work would have gone to feed the dogs. You just accept that all the memories of your success from the bottom were a dream. After leaving here and coming back, it's all you. To me, I just lost a good colleague, a good artist. I can train more good artists like you. All right, I am leaving. Shui Yong looked up and looked at Lin Che walk out. She was walking very quickly. Her tummy was so large, yet she had to come to such a dirty place. Shui Yong felt guilty looking at her steps. He stood there, clenching his fists. He looked at everything around him. Was he really going to come back? No, he did not think about coming back after leaving this place. Sister Che, he immediately called Lin Che. Lin Che stopped walking and turned her head around. Shui Yong looked at her. Sorry, I will go back. I just couldn't let things go suddenly. But you were right, I will not give up after finally crawling out of this hole. He could not go to America and leave this place for Abai. Although he could be with her, such a version of himself would not fit to be with her. I will become better and then go find Abai, he said resolutely. No matter which path he took, there was bound to be a time for success. At that time, he would go look for Abai. No matter what Wesley said, he would not give up. Lin Che looked at him and heaved a sigh of relief. She coolly said, as long as you have the heart, Abai will come back. You don't have to compare who is better when two people are together. You don't need to think about who is better, who earns more money, or who has a higher net worth. If you have the courage to live on together, you will think about life together in the future. Do you think you will be happy or hopeless if she is with you for the rest of your life? Think about it yourself. Your heart will not betray you. Shui Yong finally decided to return. He did not return to the public but went back to his current address, a house in the city. Glorious Star Entertainment was immediately notified of it and directly sent someone to contact Shui Yong. The only publicly released contact of Shui Yong was through Abai. He did not have many contacts in private and were mainly from the company as he was very low-key. He did not like to be friends with the other celebrities. Hence, in order to contact him, Glorious Star Entertainment had to block him at the film site after hearing that he was returning through the director he was working with. Then, they tried persuading him. At the film site, the Glorious Star Entertainment staff finally found Shui Yong. They looked at how Shui Yong had lost a lot of weight and said with sympathy, Shui Yong, look at your company. They really don't care about you. Now that the scandal is so serious, they only made an announcement and they stopped caring about you. Now, you are so thin and they did not even give you more nutrients and make you come to the filming site. Are you even the superstar of your company? If you come to Glorious Star, you will be the top lister of our company. We will directly put all our energy into developing you and let you live the life of a top lister, giving you all the best benefits. Chapter 1105. They finished up cleanly. We will get you the best manager, the best car, the best assistant, the best living space, and a generous salary. Is your cut here with Lin Che 50%? We will give you 70%. If you want shares, you can directly become a shareholder. We can discuss these things. Shui Yong did not speak and only listened instead. He said, you have always been in Lin Che's company, so you have not heard about the external news. You are definitely worth an A-list celebrity. At Lin Che's place, they will definitely focus their promotions on Lin Che, so you are always second because Lin Che is the boss, and you are being oppressed. You cannot even be the first. Are you willing to be second forever? Shui Yong laughed coldly and shook his head lightly while looking at the person. You are wrong. There is no first or second here. We are not partners of interest like you. I will not change my company. You can leave now. What? Do you think I am tricking you? We can talk about it first. We can discuss this slowly in our company. Furthermore, we can sign the contract first. If you have any clauses, you can add it when you sign the contract. Shui Yong immediately said, you are mistaken. I did not mean that, but I am saying that I, indeed, will not sign to another place. You can leave now. I will not leave Sister Che. What? Was he for real? The person who came to persuade him was shocked. Usually, when celebrities became popular, they would change their companies because the original contract was too disadvantageous to themselves. Furthermore, after changing companies, there would be more resources available. He did not expect a direct rejection from Shui Yong that left no questions. What exactly did Lin Che give him to make him so loyal? Shui Yong did not say anything else and asked him out. The person from Glorious Star Entertainment got kicked out and felt even more indignant about it. Since he did not accept their kindness, they would not give it again, and they would see what he could do in the future. Just then, Yu Minmin directly made an announcement. This time, she directly pointed at Glorious Star. Glorious Star Entertainment was ridiculous. Not only did they compete with them, but they also employed devious tricks underground, just because they wanted to headhunt Lin Che's artists. They even tried to defame Lin Che's company and used tricks to defame the artist before headhunting them. Glorious Star immediately replied that no such thing was happening. If they did not treat their celebrities harshly, they would not try to headhunt them. Lin Che's side immediately released the entire video. The fans did get pushed down, but Shui Yong quarreled with the bodyguards and spoke for his fans. Furthermore, the ending was a crucial part. The manager was hit until her head started bleeding, so she was immediately brought away. The scene was in a mess. Shui Yong left, protecting Abai and looking extremely manly. Afterward, she also immediately released the messages of how Glorious Star went to buy the video. In the chat, they immediately gave a price and said that the usage was just for the fans to see, so it was not very expensive. However, the person who bought it was a public relations officer from Glorious Star, who used an account that they often used for internet activities. Yu Minmin also went to visit a few fans that caused the scene. After seeing Yu Minmin, they lost their courage. Furthermore, as Yu Minmin was good at being benevolent yet strict, she directly asked them to be the witness and to say that the video was real. Someone hit Abai then, but the person ran away and did not dare to come back after seeing the news and remembering who Abai was because she was afraid of revenge. Upon seeing that, Glorious Star Entertainment got timid and did not dare to say anything. But Yu Minmin was not the kind of person who would let someone off easily. She continued her attack by releasing how the new artists in Glorious Star copied the development path of Lin Che's company, and how the new stars were made based on Lin Che's new artists. She said on Weibo that everyone imitated each other to become popular. When a certain type of celebrity became popular, everyone began developing those types in heaps. They also understood this strange situation, but they did not expect Glorious Star to do it so badly to copy them directly. Why did they not just change their name to the second Lin Che's company? Upon seeing that, the netizens agreed and suddenly disliked Glorious Star along with their newbies and artists. Some people even said, if you want to like them, you might as well go and like those newbies from Lin Che's company since they all copied them. The netizens thought it was refreshing how even the process of developing an artist could be copied. Just then, Shui Yong reappeared amongst the chaos. He became more mature, emitting a calm aura. Compared to the old Shui Yong, he was a little different. This made the fans feel bad for Shui Yong. After becoming popular, all sorts of bad instances occurred for Shui Yong. Shui Yang had already largely recovered, but his emotions would definitely be down for a while. At the time, he was not preparing to reappear and wanted to focus on finishing his film properly. After this incident had passed, Lin Che finally had the chance to have a business trip with Gu Jingze. Yu Minmin took the chance to return to work at the company. She was busy with both the child at home and at work, but she liked this sense of business and sometimes felt quite happy. However, Gu Jingming was not happy, as he felt that Yu Minmin was too busy. But he had no choice against Yu Minmin. Therefore, Yu Minmin had lost weight quickly after giving birth, returning to her figure in the past. And on the other side, Lin Che and Gu Jingze alighted the plane together and arrived at their place in S City. Gu Jingze knew that he was bringing Lin Che along, so he especially decorated the place. It was very comfortable and suitable for Lin Che to rest in. Gu Jingze went to the company in the afternoon with Lin Che. He let Lin Che rest in the company office while he went for a meeting next door. Lin Che felt very bored sitting in Gu Jingze's chair, so she started eating food. She placed her feet on the table and put a heap of snacks next to her. While she called, looked at WeChat, and scrolled through Weibo, she ate snacks. After a while, this comfortable position made someone look at her with condescension. Someone knocked on the office door, so she called to let them in. When the secretary walked in and saw the scene in front of her, she was almost in shock. Lin Che just made President Gu's desk into her bed and ate everywhere. Lin Che was used to it as it was comfortable to eat snacks while they were around her. No one would say anything at home, and would just pack up the snacks after her. But the executive secretary in front of her was in shock. It was also Lin Che's first time to S City's headquarters. The biggest two cities in C Nation was B City in the north and S City in the south. As it was closer to the sea here, it was more open and developed. Therefore, there were a lot of foreigners here. Many of the GU Industries employees were foreigners. They mainly handled a lot of foreign matters. These were what Gu Jingze told her. The setup here was more modern than in B City. The city itself was a contemporary city of concrete, but B City had a more cultural aura. Hence the people here felt like they were very efficient, unlike the people in B City who emphasized formalities. Therefore, the people in B City were there for power, while the people in S City were here for the money. Chapter 1106. This secretary is very trustworthy. Meanwhile, the woman at the front only looked at Lin Che in surprise. Her long hair was tied up. She looked very clever and hardworking. You. She looked at everything strewn all over the ground. Lin Che quickly cleaned herself and laughed dryly. I'm waiting for Gu Jingze. Her eyes swept across the mess and she said, President Gu is still in a meeting and it will probably take a little longer, but here. Lin Che asked, what's wrong? She bit her lip and said to Lin Che, nothing. There are many important documents here. Don't get food stains on them. Lin Che nodded. Oh, I'm careful about it. However, the secretary still thought that she was inappropriate. She looked a little longer and walked out. At the villa, she went straight to Gu Jingze and said quietly, President Gu, your wife is in the office. Gu Jingze raised his eyebrows. Why? She's snacking in the office and it's rather. Gu Jingze nodded and said, I got it. Usually, when he said that, he would handle it. The secretary heard this and was also much more relieved. She was not tattling on purpose. She truly felt that it was inappropriate. Gu Jingze seldom came to S City. He would frequently give instructions through meetings online. It was good enough to come here once a month. However, she had already been with Gu Jingze for 8 years. In those 8 years, she met him once a month. Looking at Gu Jingze's face, she believed that she really understood him. This man was especially harsh towards others. He would get very upset over the slightest flaw. It looked like his wife was going to get scolded later. She actually dared to be so casual in Gu Jingze's office. There were so many major documents in there. How could she be so careless? She looked quietly at Gu Jingze from behind. Although she worked with him for so long, there were too few chances to get close to him. Speaking close to him just now already made her blush and heart flutter. It really made her heart ache. However, she did things for him willingly. She worked diligently. Many people wanted to poach her with high salaries, but she refused. Being stationed in S City was like a very long wait, but she stayed put. Now, she felt as if she was pushed aside and she did not say anything more. She watched as Gu Jingze focused on his meeting. Meanwhile, in the office, a staff member came in to give Lin Che some water. This person was much friendlier and asked Lin Che, "Madam, would you like to drink anything?" "No thanks. I ate too much and I'm bursting," she said. "I don't want to trouble you either. Carry on with your work." "Not at all. President Gu already instructed us to take good care of you." Lin Che laughed and looked at the staff. She asked, "The one who came in just now with her hair tied up. Is she the secretary here?" "Oh, you must be talking about Administrative Secretary Lan." "Secretary Lan?" "Lan Wan. She is the administrative secretary. She's one of the old-timers in the company." "Oh, really? She came in just now. I'm always in B City and I've never been to the office here, so I've never met her. The one I see more often is Chin Hao." "That goes without saying. Assistant Chin goes wherever President Gu goes. We're not that lucky. We are stationed here in S City. Secretary Lan is also one of President Gu's old-timers. She has worked for him for many years and President Gu trusts her a lot. Furthermore, Secretary Lan is also very capable. There aren't many secretaries who can satisfy President Gu. There must be a good reason that Secretary Lan can work under him for so long. I've only been here for 3 years, so I'm not sure how it was like in the past. However, Secretary Lan is really intense now. If President Gu is harsh, she is harsher. Everything must be up to President Gu's satisfaction." She felt that Lin Che was rather welcoming, so she also talked a little more. Seeing Lin Che listen to her, she then realized that she had said too much. "I meant it positively. She is a workaholic. We should all learn from her." Lin Che looked at her and smiled. "Don't worry, we're just chatting casually." She knew that Secretary Lan was probably the staff's superior. Not many subordinates took a liking to their superiors. This was an office problem and it was very common. Thus, much of what she said would be the negative side of her superior. Lin Che listened and remembered one of the important points. She was an old-timer and had been working with Gu Jingze for a long time. She was intense and focused on satisfying Gu Jingze. Just then, Gu Jingze returned. Gu Jingze opened the door and walked in. He saw Lin Che sit there. The snacks beside her were already mostly cleaned up. "Has the meeting ended?" Lin Che asked. Gu Jingze nodded and walked over to stand behind Lin Che. Secretary Lan followed him into the room. She wanted to see how Gu Jingze was going to handle this matter, so she came straight in. Little did she expect to see him immediately kissing Lin Che on her forehead before asking, "What do you want to eat later?" Lin Che patted her belly. "I spent the whole day eating and I'm full now. What should we do?" Gu Jingze laughed. "Full already? There's a little human in your belly. Is he full too?" I only ate snacks so he'll probably be hungry later. We can eat something later." Lin Che looked at him and then at Secretary Lan, who followed him. She said, "Oh, right. I ate in here just now. I didn't stain any documents, did I?" He also did not chase Lin Che off the boss seat. She continued sitting there. Meanwhile, he continued standing behind her and even massaged her shoulders. He bent down and spoke beside her ear, "No document is as important as you are." Lin Che heard this and her face flushed with embarrassment. She quickly looked at Secretary Lan. Secretary Lan was already dumbfounded. Looking at Gu Jingze and Lin Che's interactions, she felt that this was not the President Gu she knew. Absolutely not. How could the high and mighty President Gu be so accommodating to Lin Che, and even let her sit in his chair while he stood at the side and massaged her shoulders? Neither did he say anything negative because of her snacking. What was going on? Lin Che said, "All right, we're not alone." Gu Jingze turned his head. He looked at Secretary Lan but did not waver. She and Chin Hao worked for him for the longest time. It was inconvenient for him to use her because she was a woman and she did not work as long as Chin Hao did. However, he still trusted her. He would not waver in front of people he trusted. Gu Jingze was the same when in front of Qin Hao. He was equally sweet to Lin Che just as he was here. However, Lin Che was already used to having Qin Hao around and Qin Hao was also used to it. Here with Secretary Lan, she couldn't feel at ease. It was probably because of the look in her eyes that made Lin Che uncomfortable, especially when she was staring at them. Lin Che could feel the difference in her eyes. Chapter 1107. Go out to eat. Gu Jingze turned around and said, "Okay, go make arrangements for lunch." Secretary Lan heard this and nodded. "What would you like to eat?" Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. "What do you want to eat?" Lin Che said, "I suddenly feel like eating barbecued meat." Barbecued meat? Yeah, Korean-style barbecued meat. Gu Jingze frowned. He turned his head and said, "Go prepare." Secretary Lan was dumbfounded as she stared at Gu Jingze. To prepare this kind of thing? Gu Jingze probably did not like eating that at all. Gu Jingze never ate it and he probably didn't know what it was either. Secretary Lan looked at Lin Che. She was still gazing at Gu Jingze and didn't seem to see her. Secretary Lan retreated and went to make preparations. She prepared Korean cuisine and the food was ready outside. Lin Che walked over and saw that the meat was already cooked. All she had to do was take it. Lin Che looked at it impatiently and said, "Okay, I guess it is Korean." Gu Jingze naturally knew Lin Che. If she saw what she truly liked to eat, she would have already rushed forward gleefully. "Is something wrong?" Lin Che replied, "No. This is correct." She didn't want to cause any trouble, so she sat down and said to him, "Let's eat. We can eat the meat with the dips." Gu Jingze frowned. "Is this different from what you wanted to eat?" Lin Che took a piece of meat and said, "When we're outside, the meat is barbecued on the spot. We cook and eat at the same time. The meat would be piping hot and delicious with side dishes." Gu Jingze sat there quietly and pondered. He said to her, "Okay. Stop eating that, come with me." Gu Jingze pulled Lin Che along. Lin Che looked at him. "Where are we going?" "We're going out to eat." "Ah, it's too troublesome. This is the same too," Lin Che said. Although she was a little disappointed that she didn't get what she expected, she did not want to cause any trouble. His staff already prepared it and she would come across as troublesome. However, Gu Jingze tugged her towards the exit. He gestured to Secretary Lan and instructed, "Distribute all this food. They have not touched the food, so other people could still eat it." It was too late for Secretary Lan to ask if anything was wrong. The couple already walked out. Secretary Lan looked at the uneaten meat and was disappointed. She deliberately had the kitchen prepare the barbecued meat. As they had to barbecue the meat, there were many ingredients involved. She thought of many ways to figure out something that would suit Gu Jingze's taste buds. Little did she expect that not only would he not take a bite, he even took Lin Che away. She could only look at the table and told the staff, "Keep the food." Outside, Gu Jingze walked with Lin Che. Looking ahead, he asked, "Does that restaurant serve barbecued meat?" This type of barbecued meat is rather popular now. The moment they were out on the street, they immediately saw one. Lin Che said, yes, it is that kind." Gu Jingze turned around and gave her sunglasses and a baseball cap to put on. Because of her big belly, it was easier for her to disguise herself. But even so, she still had to keep a low profile. It did not mean that the disguise would make her completely unrecognizable. Once that was done, Gu Jingze held Lin Che and they got out of the car. They went straight into the barbecue restaurant. The restaurant had private rooms separated by curtains. However, when they asked, the service staff said that there were no rooms available. Gu Jingze looked around the restaurant. It was too noisy and would not be good for Lin Che. Thus, he took out a black card from his pocket. "Is anyone willing to give up their private room for us? My wife is pregnant and it's not convenient for her to be outside. She wants to eat the barbecued meat here, so we especially came here. I'm worried that she'll bump into something here." The staff saw the black card. She looked at Gu Jingze again and knew that he was rich. She was hesitant as she looked around and said, "Let me ask my boss." Gu Jingze thanked her. The boss came out. When he saw Gu Jingze, he froze and knew that he was definitely not an ordinary man. He also wanted to make them stay, so he quickly got a customer who just sat down to give way. The boss told the customer that this man wanted the private room as his wife was pregnant and there was no empty room now. They were worried about the wife if they sat outside. To thank the customer, the boss said that the meal would be on the house. Gu Jingze naturally would not allow others to spend money on his behalf. He would definitely tip the restaurant later. The guests inside saw Lin Che and Gu Jingze standing together. Although they thought that it was troublesome and did not want to give up their seats, the helpless restaurant boss already offered to waive their bill. This was already very tempting. Furthermore, Gu Jingze had a legitimate reason. It was understandable to want a quiet place to eat for his pregnant wife. Thus, one of them said, "It's okay. It's for the pregnant lady's convenience. It's no big deal." They swapped places and the boss quickly said, "Please come in. Right this way." The customers who left turned around and looked at them. They thought that Gu Jingze was very thoughtful. Look at him, he's so generous for his wife's sake. Why not for his child's sake? Perhaps he is doing this because of the child. Humph, I believe it's because he loves his wife. Please, just because he's handsome, you think that he's an angel. What a superficial society. Lin Che took the menu, walked in and started placing her order. She always said that eating outside was not healthy. However, it was exactly outside food that was so satisfying. How could anyone help it? Lin Che ordered a few plates of meat, and then made some fresh vegetables for Gu Jingze to eat. Lin Che ate ecstatically. It was completely different from how she was just now. Lin Che said, "This is really delicious." Gu Jingze said, "Next time, just tell me what you want to eat." Lin Che waved her hand dismissively. "It's okay. If it's really not possible usually, I can just make do with whatever." Just make do? Gu Jingze looked at her. "I don't want you to settle. Just say what you want to eat. If I can't even satisfy your taste buds, what kind of husband am I?" Lin Che looked at him. It was a small matter, but actually, the smaller the matter, the more one would show their true nature. Many men like to say that although they were not romantic enough or not thoughtful enough in the little things, they would devote everything to you when it came to big things. They would give the woman all the money in the household and everything else. What more could a woman ask for? However, women wanted the little things that showed care and concern. They probably didn't even care about those major things. These little things showed a man's true heart. If one really put in the effort, why was there a need to differentiate the big and little things? However, Lin Che had also seen it before. Many men always said that they were too busy with work and they could not think of all these little things. They would ask their partners to make do. Chapter 1108, Bad Intentions. One could make do in one's daily life, but sometimes, one should not make do in living. There were no limits to living. Thus, one actually should not settle in life. However, Gu Jingze was not this kind of man. He was the kind of person who made sure that the minor gestures were made first before he went on to the major actions. Thus, he always put in his best effort. Lin Che looked at him and wondered how she ever deserved his efforts. However, she still enjoyed it very much. As Lin Che ate, she said, "Actually, the food at home would probably suit your taste bud more. This is a little different." Gu Jingze replied, "Secretary Lan prepared it. The company's chefs probably did it. Their food tends to be healthier. Yeah, they probably wouldn't use charcoal like this." That's right, it's unhygienic and Secretary Lan is more careful. She wouldn't do that. When he mentioned Secretary Lan, Lin Che asked, "Has Secretary Lan worked for you for a long time?" "Well, yes, it's been a few years." He couldn't remember exactly how many years it was. He only knew that when they started the branch here, she was already around. Lin Che said, "It looks like she is probably very capable. Otherwise, how could a strict person like you keep her around for so long? It's just like Chin Hao. He is meticulous and that is why he can stay by your side. She's probably not that different from Chin Hao, right?" "Yeah, actually, in terms of abilities, she's on par with Chin Hao. It's just that she's a woman." It was not that Gu Jingze discriminated against women. It was because of his allergy to women that left him with no choice. He could not have any woman around him. Thus, no matter how good Secretary Lan was, she would still be stationed in S City. She was able to work with him for so long and never dismissed was also because she was always in S City. She was not close to him physically. Otherwise, except a few female secretaries who do not come in physical contact with Gu Jingze, everyone else was a man. Lin Che said, "It's really impressive for a woman to get to where she is now." She was not discriminating against women either. It was because men sometimes had certain advantages that would make them more successful. Women had their own advantages in other areas, so they were more successful in those areas. When it came to a career, women had a natural obstacle that was not easy to overcome. By overthinking things, matters would become more troublesome. Men could easily tackle issues as they were so that matters could be easily solved. This couldn't be helped. The majority of the women had a more delicate sensuality than men. Lin Che spoke and Gu Jingze nodded. That's right, but she did slip up this time. He also planned to talk to the kitchen later and dismiss a few chefs as punishment. The high salary in the GU industries also meant that the stakes were higher. The risk was that if you were not qualified enough, you could easily be replaced by someone else. Everything had its own advantages and disadvantages. This was true everywhere. In the past, the GU family's chefs were already very impressive to be able to stay until now. They were not just impressive in their skills but were also able to satisfy the family's needs in every aspect. They clearly knew what Gu Jingze wanted and what Lin Che wanted. Just one word and they would deliver. However, the chefs here were clearly not up to standard. That was because he never bothered to get personal them in the past, either. Now that he thought about it, the chefs always fulfilled his requirements when it was usually just him alone. They never asked about anyone else. Thus, he never said anything. Now that Lin Che was here, they still continued to only focus on his requirements. This was naturally not good. He had already taken this matter to heart, and he was not anxious for the time being. Lin Che continued, "She's been working in the GU industries for so long, so she must be rather mature. But I really can't tell what exactly is her age. It's so busy at work. Does she have kids? Does she have a family?" Gu Jingze did not know. He never cared about personal matters. "Well, maybe I guess not," he said. "What? She's worked for you for 8 years. Shouldn't you think about how she feels?" Lin Che knew that Chin Hao already wanted to start a family. He wanted to, but he had not. Because he was too busy, he had blown off a few relationships. His current girlfriend was his secretary. As they worked together all the time, they often saw each other even though they had no time to date. They ended up together and Gu Jingze became the matchmaker. He gave a huge bonus to the two of them as they were getting ready to marry after the new year. Working in GU Industries was too sad. Lin Che said, "Don't chain people down all the time. You have to think about their personal lives." Gu Jingze said, "I don't think she has taken a day off before. She never took marriage leave or maternity leave, so she probably doesn't have a family." Lin Che shook her head. "Oh my, you're such an exploiter." Gu Jingze said, "She never asked before. How would I know? Perhaps it's because competition and stress in the GU industries are too great, so she doesn't dare to take a day off." Gu Jingze said, "Only with the competition will there be progression. This is a good competition, but they had to turn it malicious. I can't possibly babysit every single employee." That was true too. Lin Che cocked her head to the side and said, "It looks like there really is a price to pay to get a good job." Gu Jingze said, "You're lucky that you met me first. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be able to take a break or get married since you're so busy now." Lin Che shrugged. After they finished eating, they headed back. Gu Jingze continued working in the afternoon. When he was less busy, he then saw Secretary Lan at the side and was reminded of Lin Che's words. He asked, "Secretary Lan, are you married?" Secretary Lan was silent. Gu Jingze actually asked about her personal life. Gu Jingze had never asked about these things. At that moment, her heart palpitated crazily and she almost lost control. I am not." Gu Jingze nodded and said, "If you need to take a break to date or get married, you can tell me." Secretary Lan quickly said, "No. I'm not looking for a relationship at the moment. It's also part of life. You've been working so hard at GU Industries and I don't want you forsaking other aspects of your life. Our company is not that demanding, Gu Jingze spoke as he massaged his temples. Secretary Lan was extremely touched. She gazed at Gu Jingze's side profile. His fatigue made her want to heal him. Even in his most tired state, he was filled with sharpness. This made people feel that he was so distinctly smart. He was so cold with not a hint of softness. This was a true man. Secretary Lan blushed. There's no need to. I think my life is fine right now. Being with President Gu is much better than getting married. I'm willing to always be with President Gu working diligently. Just then, Lin Che came in. She opened the door and saw Secretary Lan at the side. Gu Jingze did not lift his head up. He sat in his chair as he closed his eyes to rest. Thus, he naturally did not see the bashful look on Secretary Lan's face. Chapter 1109, Does She Fancy You? Lin Che immediately recognized the look in those eyes. Because when she looked at Gu Jingze, her eyes would give off the same look too. How could she not? An expression showing that she wanted him. She wanted him so badly. She had it too. Lin Che quickly looked away. Surprised, she thought to herself, did Secretary Lan? However, for a woman beside Gu Jingze to develop feelings for him was completely understandable. After all, Gu Jingze was so outstanding and feelings could not be controlled. She might have fancied him, but like most normal and proper women, she would simply be infatuated for a little bit or simply keep it to herself. However, it was not for certain how many women had that look in their eyes. After all, Gu Jingze was already married. All subordinates who were closer to him knew about it. They also knew that Lin Che was Gu Jingze's wife. However, Secretary Lan continued looking at Gu Jingze in such a manner. That was wrong. Lin Che shook her head. On the one hand, she was amazed at how Gu Jingze could be so charming that he could win over countless girls' hearts. On the other hand, she was uncomfortable with it. Because Secretary Lan was right by his side, but she still desired him so obviously. And she even seemed to want his everything. Like him, for all I care, but you can't have him. That man is taken, so what if you want him? Secretary Lan quickly snapped out of it. She looked up at Lin Che and frowned, wondering what the employees outside were doing. How could Lin Che simply come in without knocking? She had no idea that all of Gu Jingze's people knew Lin Che. When Gu Jingze was working, Lin Che could always go in and out as she pleased. Seeing Lin Che did not make Gu Jingze angry. Instead, it made him very happy. After a long time, they naturally understood. Thus, Lin Che could go in and out of the room whenever she wanted. They did not have to bother. Lin Che hesitated before stepping in. Gu Jingze clapped his hands and let Secretary Lan leave first. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze and then turned around to look in the direction that Secretary Lan left. She asked, "What were you talking about?" "Gu Jingze, I was following your sagely advice and showing concern about my subordinate's personal life." "Oh, how was it?" She said that she wanted to devote all her time to work. Ha, devote her time to work or to him? Lin Che narrowed her eyes. It was indeed uncomfortable for her. Thus, she decided to ask Gu Jingze directly, "Does she harbor any kind of intentions on you?" Gu Jingze froze immediately. Then, he burst out laughing. Lin Che was puzzled by his laughter. Hey, what are you doing?" Gu Jingze asked, "Are you jealous?" He swooped Lin Che into his arms with one quick motion. Lin Che ended up sitting on his lap. She hit his shoulders. "Don't do this, I'm so heavy." "You are heavy," he looked at her and said. Lin Che huffed angrily, "What did you say?" She could call herself heavy, but others could not. Every woman was the same. Gu Jingze looked at her. "Because you are my everything, so of course, you're heavy." Lin Che's heart suddenly shot up sky high. Oh my, her heart was already melting. Did this man know how charming he already was? Coupled with some lovely words, he was simply too irresistible. People would die. Lin Che leaned on him and smiled. However sweet it was for a little while, she still couldn't forget about that Secretary Lan. She said, anyway, women have women's intuition. I feel that Secretary Lan is like you. Impossible. Men were laggards when it came to this kind of matter. He said, it is only for work. We only see one another a few times a year. That doesn't stop her from liking you, she replied. Gu Jingze pinched her nose. You're incredibly jealous now, but I quite like it when you're jealous. Incredibly jealous? That meant that he still didn't believe it. Lin Che could not be bothered about saving his emotional quotient. Thus, she didn't say anything else. They cuddled for a while before they went to rest together. The next morning, Gu Jingze went to work again. Lin Che tidied up before heading out. She still went to the company to wait for him. He was having a meeting as planned. Lin Che arrived at his office and saw Secretary Lan come in. She said plainly, you must be so busy these few days, Secretary Lan. Thank you. When Secretary Lan looked at her, her eyes were completely different and Lin Che naturally could tell. Towards Gu Jingze, she was so gentle and dutiful. She was so willing as if she wanted to give her heart and body too. But towards Lin Che, it was entirely different. She smiled, but only superficially. Other employees may not have been personal either, but they absolutely would never show such a drastic difference. Lin Che asked, is Gu Jingze busy? Secretary Lan said, Madam, President Gu went to see the doctor. He wasn't feeling well. The doctor? Lin Che repeated in surprise. What happened? Secretary Lan said, he probably ate something bad. His stomach was upset. Lin Che jolted. She looked up at Secretary Lan. She smiled. Secretary Lan, if you have anything to say, just shoot. You think that the restaurant where President Gu and I went to eat was not proper, don't you? Secretary Lan looked at her. Madam, I have no other intention. It's just that President Gu had been busy with meetings over the past few days. He simply should not be eating food that is not substantial. It would waste time. Furthermore, President Gu is a picky eater and his digestive system is weak. It's not good for him to be eating rubbish. Lin Che was even more surprised. Her words sounded like she was Gu Jingze's wife instead. While Lin Che was an outsider who did not understand Gu Jingze. However, Lin Che laughed. It's probably because the food you've been preparing over the past few days didn't suit his taste. In B City, we often dine outside and he was fine. Secretary Lan maintained a poker face. Perhaps, but President Gu has never been like this, so that was what I deduced. Lin Che narrowed her eyes and looked at her. Secretary Lan, I hope you'll understand one thing. I am his wife, and I am indeed like any other visitor coming to the company. You can carry on with your work. You don't have to bother about me. She replied, everything in President Gu's office is under my care, so this is also my duty. Lin Che said, Secretary Lan, let me ask you something. Secretary Lan looked at her. Lin Che asked, do you have something against me? Secretary Lan raised a brow and looked at her. Madam, how can you say that? I don't. Lin Che said, I'm not your boss, so you don't have to hide anything from me. Just be honest with me. Okay, I'll say it. I just feel that you are disturbing President Gu by being here. Why don't you go back and rest? Lin Che stood up. Am I disturbing President Gu, or am I disturbing you? Secretary Lan said, how can you say that, madam? Have I done anything wrong? You can tell me. Oh, then let me ask you this. You usually never put makeup on. When I first came here, you never wore makeup and you only wore work clothes. Today, you actually put in the effort to doll up. You're not dating and neither do you have a boyfriend. You even wore a low-cut top to work. I would like to know who is your intended audience. Chapter 11:10. Do you not believe me? As if she had been seen through, Secretary Lan's embarrassment turned into fury. Her face was completely flushed and she felt extremely angry too. She looked at Lin Che. Madam, you're interfering a bit too much. No matter who I dressed up for, you have no right to say anything about it either. Ha, I was just asking. If you want to dress up for someone, you have to consider whether or not the person will even look at you. Secretary Lan had intentionally dressed herself up, but she did not expect Lin Che to notice. Today, she had, in fact, met Gu Jingze only briefly, just because Gu Jingze had felt unwell the moment he arrived and went to see the doctor. It was all because of Lin Che that her meticulous style of dress may turn out useless. Of course, she was angry. We don't know yet if he will look at me or now. Perhaps you can see for yourself when President Gu comes later. Lin Che guffawed. She was so straightforward. Did that mean it was true? She knew that everyone felt that it was probably fine for a man like Gu Jingze to have one or two mistresses outside. That was why she behaved so impudently in front of her. It did not matter to her what these people thought. In any case, it was enough as long as she knew what kind of person Gu Jingze was. Just then, Gu Jingze came in coincidentally. Lin Che stood there, facing Secretary Lan with a harsh expression. As for Secretary Lan, who had always taken her job seriously, there was nothing exceptional about the expression on her face. Gu Jingze walked in skeptically. Secretary Lan looked at Gu Jingze. With her earlier words in mind, she smiled from ear to ear as she looked at Gu Jingze. The clothes she was wearing straightened out slightly. But Gu Jingze did not even glance at her. Her expression soured slightly as a result. She saw that Gu Jingze's eyes were fixed only on Lin Che. What happened? Lin Che scoffed. Nothing. You can ask your secretary. Secretary Lan's face remained as stoic as ever, except that her expression looked slightly awkward and her smile seemed very awkward as well. President Gu, it's nothing. Madam was just wondering if there was anything going on between you and me, something beyond our professional relationship. I said that there wasn't. Madam didn't believe me and even asked me why I dressed up today. She immediately seemed a little aggrieved. Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Oh, so she had gotten carried away with jealousy again. Lin Che scoffed, that definitely wasn't what you said earlier. Secretary Lan said, I'm sorry. I did retort rudely and impetuously earlier. But that's exactly how I am. I was a little anxious. I hope Madam won't misunderstand. Gu Jingze looked at Secretary Lan before glancing at Lin Che. He smiled, waved his hand, and said, got it. He looked at Lin Che, lowered his head, and put his arm around her waist. All right, it's nothing. Once I'm done, I'll accompany you out today to have fun. Lin Che looked at him. Are you saying that you don't believe me right now? Gu Jingze paused before looking at her. How can I not believe you? Lin Che said, this is uncharacteristic of you. If Gu Jingze genuinely believed her, he would have resolved the matter swiftly and decisively by now, instead of changing the subject like this. Gu Jingze said, yes. I think there's a small misunderstanding on your part. Lin Che looked at Secretary Lan. She herself knows whether or not this is a misunderstanding. Secretary Lan felt even more aggrieved. Her expression was between laughter and tears. I dressed up a bit because President Gu said yesterday that I should consider my personal issues. I was also thinking about it. As opposed to wasting time outside, perhaps there would be a few targets in the company. That's why I tried dressing up. Ha, she said it so. Gu Jingze said, that's enough. Secretary Lan, head back first. Secretary Lan glanced at Lin Che. It went without saying what this glance meant. The way she was behaving like the victor made Lin Che feel frustrated. Lin Che looked at Gu Jingze only after Secretary Lan went out. As expected, you don't believe me. Gu Jingze frowned. It's true that she's a bit more direct by nature. She was probably disrespectful towards you. I will let her know. In S City, people dealt with others in a different manner than in B City. The people here placed work and efficiency above all else. They did not quite know how to speak to and deal with people. Because Gu Jingze understood, he felt that Secretary Lan might have offended her for this reason. But Secretary Lan had always done a very good job in terms of work. He felt that perhaps Lin Che had gotten jealous because she was too sensitive. It was fine to be jealous. Any woman would be jealous. He would cajole her and nothing would happen. But Lin Che could not be bothered to belabor the point when she saw his hesitant expression. She merely released her hold on Gu Jingze coolly and said, that's enough. Rest up first. I heard you went to the hospital. Have a good rest. I'll go back and rest up too. I'm a bit tired. Lin Che. Let me be alone for a while. Thanks, Lin Che said. Although Gu Jingze wanted to approach her, he did not follow her upon hearing that she wanted to be alone. Lin Che walked out. Outside, Secretary Lan looked at Lin Che. Madam, are you leaving? Lin Che said, you acted quite well. Secretary Lan snickered. It looks like your relationship with President Gu isn't as good as the rumors say. Inside, Lin Che laughed grimly to herself. Secretary Lan said, take care. I'll help you look after President Gu well. Was this a provocation? Lin Che scoffed and walked out directly. Naturally, a fire was brewing inside her heart because it was obvious to her. But Gu Jingze could not sense it. She walked while cursing. That damn Gu Jingze. He was a block of wood. He was way too trusting of women. Did he not know that every woman was gifted in acting? Lin Che cursed him out all the way home. However, when she returned home and saw a call from Gu Jingze, she did not pick up either. She left her phone there while seething in anger. She thought that perhaps she had no reason to be angry. It was other people's prerogative to like Gu Jingze. What did it have to do with Gu Jingze? But she simply felt unhappy that Gu Jingze had actually chosen to believe Secretary Lan and not her. This was despite the fact that Gu Jingze was probably a person who believed evidence. He felt that he could not make a decision without evidence. It was also true that she did not have evidence. It had not occurred to her earlier to record Secretary Lan's words. But she was still angry. Impotent rage kept rippling in her heart. At this moment, Gu Jingze did not call again after the first time. She tilted her body. When she saw Dongzi walking towards her, she asked, where is Gu Jingze? Dongzi said, oh, miss. I just found out that President Gu seems to have gone to the venue with someone for an inspection. With someone with who? It seems that he brought Secretary Lan along with him. Hee. Lin Che immediately stood up and said directly, since that's the case, we won't disturb his work anymore. Let's go first. Dongzi said in surprise, go where? Miss. For a stroll. She headed straight out. The line of people, including Dongzi, didn't dare to say anything else. They could tell that she was unhappy and quickly trailed after her. Miss, tell us where you want to go. We'll go with you. Let's go for a drive. Yes. Lin Che had not really gone around S City either. They drove around, but there was no place she could go to either. Thus, she instructed them to keep going straight ahead along the road. Dongzi looked at Lin Che with slight worry. We'll reach C City soon if we keep going. Oh, I heard that there are many water towns over there. Let's drive there and take a look, Lin Che said.